You won't believe the shocking truth about the cruelty and humiliation Marcus faced, a journey that will leave you reeling as he confronts the unimaginable. The scent of sizzling garlic and roasted chicken wafted through the air of Marcus's restaurant, Soulful Bites, a bustling haven in the heart of downtown. With its rustic charm and vibrant decor, the place thrived on the warmth of community and the promise of comfort food. Sunlight poured through large windows, illuminating the laughter and chatter of satisfied patrons. For Marcus, this restaurant was more than just a business, it was a labor of love, a testament to his hard work and determination. Marcus, a tall man with a warm smile and deep-set brown eyes, navigated the restaurant floor like a conductor orchestrating a symphony. He greeted familiar faces, exchanging pleasantries and laughter with his loyal customers. Yet, beneath his composed exterior, a familiar tension churned in his stomach. The ever-present undercurrent of racial bias lingered, especially in a city where the diverse tapestry of its residents often clashed with outdated prejudices. As he moved to the back of the house, he overheard the rhythmic clinking of cutlery and the soft chatter of the kitchen staff. Everything seemed in harmony until he caught a glimpse of Lisa, a new waitress, who stood behind the counter, hands on her hips, a smirk playing on her lips. Today was her third day on the job, and already, her attitude was testing the thin veneer of Marcus's patience. "Hey, you!" Lisa called out, her tone dripping with sarcasm as she wiped down the counter. "What's with the fancy get-up? You here to eat or just to check on the help?" Marcus felt his heart sink. He brushed it off with a polite smile, knowing that his position as the owner was invisible to her. "Just grabbing a bite, Lisa. Everything looks great." "Right," she replied, rolling her eyes. "Hope you're not expecting any special treatment. We treat everyone the same here." The words stung, each one laced with a condescending undertone. It wasn't the first time he'd faced such mockery, but it still hit hard. He knew he was not just any customer, he was the one who had poured his soul into this place, yet here he was, standing before someone who didn't see him as anything more than a black man in a chef's jacket. As he took a seat at a table near the window, Marcus felt the heat of her gaze on him, an unspoken judgment hanging in the air. He looked around, noticing the other diners enjoying their meals, unaware of the tension brewing just a few feet away. He took a deep breath, reminding himself of his purpose. He wanted to create a welcoming environment for everyone, not just for himself. Moments later, Lisa approached his table, her demeanor shifting as she jotted down his order with an exaggerated flourish. "So, what'll it be?" "The usual," she quipped, the smirk still plastered on her face. "Actually, I'll have the fried chicken and collard greens," he replied, maintaining his composure. "And could I get a side of the cornbread?" "Coming right up," she said, barely concealing her disdain as she sauntered away, her laughter echoing among the other staff. Marcus watched her retreating figure, his mind racing. The unsettling feeling of being judged, of having his identity reduced to mere assumptions, clawed at him. It was a familiar feeling, one he had navigated throughout his life, yet each incident felt like a fresh wound. He had built this restaurant to showcase the rich heritage of his culture, to elevate the culinary traditions that had shaped him. But here he was, confronted with the harsh reality that, for some, his success was an anomaly, a challenge to their biases. As he waited for his meal, the laughter of nearby diners faded into a dull murmur, replaced by the weight of Lisa's comments lingering in the air. He stared out the window, watching people walk by, oblivious to the internal battle waging within him. He had fought hard to carve out his space in the culinary world, and he wouldn't let one rude waitress tarnish his dream. Yet, as he took a sip of his sweet tea, the bitterness of the moment lingered. He knew he would have to confront this, whether through words or actions. Change didn't happen overnight, but he was determined to stand his ground, to ensure that his restaurant would be a place of respect, no matter the challenges ahead. As his thoughts swirled, he could feel the tension in the room beginning to escalate. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of a confrontation that would force him to confront not only Lisa's prejudice but also the very fabric of the culture he had worked so hard to build. As Marcus sat at his table, the vibrant atmosphere of soulful bites felt increasingly oppressive. He watched Lisa interact with other customers, her demeanor shifting dramatically when faced with patrons who fit her ideal. Her forced laughter and exaggerated enthusiasm for their orders contrasted starkly with her treatment of him. The weight of her condescension hung in the air, and he could feel it suffocating his spirit. The sound of laughter from a nearby table broke his concentration. A group of white diners shared stories, their voices rising above the clatter of dishes and forks. They looked like they belonged, and it stung. He wanted to join in their joviality, to feel like part of the community he had poured his heart into. Yet, here he was, an outsider in his own establishment. A familiar voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Hey, man. How's it going?" It was Brian, one of the regulars and a fellow chef from a neighboring restaurant. His easy smile and genuine interest provided a brief respite from the day's earlier tensions. "Just trying to enjoy a quiet lunch," Marcus replied, forcing a smile. "You know how it is." "Yeah, I hear you. Busy as ever." Brian leaned against the edge of the table, his brow furrowing as he took in the scene. "What's up with the new waitress? I saw her giving you a hard time." Marcus sighed, feeling a rush of frustration. "It's just the usual. Some people can't see beyond their biases. She thinks she's funny." "Man, that's messed up," Brian said, shaking his head. "You built this place from the ground up, and she acts like she's above you. Unbelievable." The camaraderie of their shared frustration brought a flicker of relief, but it was fleeting. "I'll handle it," Marcus said, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "I don't want to create a scene. This restaurant is about inclusivity, not conflict." "True, but you deserve respect. You're the owner." Brian insisted, his tone becoming more serious. "Don't let her get to you. You've worked too hard for this." As they talked, Marcus felt the tension easing slightly, bolstered by Brian's support. But that relief was short-lived. Lisa reappeared, her hands on her hips, a look of disdain etched across her features. She placed his plate down with a clatter that drew attention from nearby diners. "Here's your chicken and collard greens," she said, her tone dismissive. "Hope it's good enough for you." Marcus's heart raced. He could feel the heat rising to his cheeks, a mix of anger and humiliation flooding his senses. "Thank you, Lisa," he replied, trying to maintain his composure. "Anything else you want, or are you just gonna sit there staring at it?" she shot back, crossing her arms defiantly. Before he could respond, Brian interjected, "Hey, Lisa, that's uncalled for. He's a paying customer like everyone else. Show some respect." She rolled her eyes, dismissing him with a wave. "Whatever, Brian. Maybe if he weren't so sensitive, we wouldn't have a problem." The exchange drew murmurs from the surrounding tables, and Marcus felt the collective eyes of the restaurant on him. The air grew thick with tension, the playful atmosphere of moments before now replaced with an uncomfortable silence. "Let it go, Brian," Marcus said quietly, trying to diffuse the situation. "I can handle this." But the damage was done. Lisa's behavior had crossed a line, revealing the deep-seated biases that existed not just within her but within the culture that surrounded them. He could feel the anger bubbling inside him, simmering just beneath the surface, a pressure cooker ready to explode. As Lisa walked away, Marcus's mind raced. He couldn't ignore the subtle injustices that had become all too familiar in his life. This wasn't just about a rude waitress, it was a reflection of a society that refused to see him as anything more than a stereotype. The restaurant's lively ambience faded into the background as he contemplated the weight of his reality. Could he continue to provide a safe and welcoming space while battling these prejudices? He knew he had to address Lisa's behavior head-on, not just for himself but for every patron who walked through those doors, looking for a place where they could be seen and valued. The clatter of plates and the chatter of diners felt distant as he grappled with his thoughts. He had built Soulful Bites to be a sanctuary, a celebration of culture and community, yet it seemed that not everyone shared his vision. Just then, Marcus noticed a young couple at a nearby table whispering, their eyes darting between him and Lisa. He could feel the judgment in their gaze, and it cut deeper than any words ever could. This was his reality, an incessant struggle against the biases of others. As he pushed the plate away, uneaten, he realized this wasn't just about a rude waitress or a bad day, it was about dismantling the walls of prejudice, one interaction at a time. He felt a surge of determination wash over him. No more silence. No more tolerance for disrespect. He would confront Lisa, not just for himself, but for every person who had ever faced the sting of racism in a place that was supposed to embrace them. He would find his voice and reclaim his power. Standing up from the table, he took a deep breath, ready to face the challenge head-on. This was his restaurant, and he would ensure that it embodied the respect and dignity every customer deserved. As Marcus strode toward the kitchen, his heart pounded with a mix of determination and trepidation. The clang of pots and the sizzling of pans surrounded him, but he felt like he was in a bubble, isolated from the chaos of the bustling restaurant. He had always prided himself on being the calm in the storm, the steady hand guiding his staff and patrons alike. But today felt different. Today, he was fueled by a righteous anger. "Marcus, you okay?" Sarah, the head chef, asked, noticing his intense expression as he pushed through the swinging doors. She wiped her hands on a towel, concern etched across her face. "I'm fine," he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But we need to talk about Lisa." The kitchen quieted as a few heads turned to listen. Sarah raised an eyebrow, sensing the tension. "What about her?" Marcus took a deep breath, steadying himself. "She's treating customers poorly, especially me. I can't have that in my restaurant." "Did she say something?" Sarah probed, her eyes narrowing in understanding. Marcus hesitated, weighing his words. "It's not just what she says, it's how she says it. It's the attitude, the dismissive tone. It's like she doesn't even see me as the owner." A silence fell over the kitchen as his words hung in the air, the weight of his reality sinking in. The other chefs exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of concern and solidarity. "I've noticed it too," Sarah admitted, her voice low. "She's been off since she started, like she's trying to prove something. Maybe she doesn't believe she belongs here." "Maybe she doesn't believe I belong here either," Marcus shot back, frustration creeping into his tone. "This is my place, and I won't let anyone undermine that." Sarah nodded, her determination mirroring his. "You need to talk to her. Set her straight. We can't let anyone treat our customers that way." As he steeled himself for the confrontation, a knot of anxiety twisted in Marcus's stomach. Confrontation was never easy, especially when it involved addressing someone's deep-seated biases. But he had to do it. He owed it to himself, to his restaurant, and to every person who walked through those doors hoping for a warm welcome. "Let's do it now," Marcus decided, his voice firm. "I'm done letting this slide. It's time to hold her accountable." As they stepped out of the kitchen, Marcus could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on him. He had built Soulful Bites as a refuge for everyone, his community, his friends, and even strangers seeking comfort in good food. To see it tarnished by ignorance was unacceptable. They made their way back to the dining area, the din of conversation growing louder. Marcus spotted Lisa at the bar, leaning against the counter and chatting with a few customers. The sight sent a surge of anger through him, igniting the fire of resolve in his chest. "Lisa," he called out, his voice cutting through the chatter. Heads turned, and the buzz of conversation faded into an anticipatory hush. She glanced over, surprise flashing in her eyes, but quickly masked by indifference. "What's up, Marcus? I'm kind of busy here." "We need to talk," he said, striding toward her, Sarah by his side. "Can't it wait?" "I'm in the middle of service," Lisa replied, her tone flippant. "It can't wait," he insisted, his heart racing as he felt the eyes of the restaurant on them. You've been treating customers inappropriately, and it needs to stop. Lisa's demeanor shifted, irritation flashing across her face. I'm just doing my job. If people can't take a joke, that's on them. A joke? Marcus echoed incredulously. You think humiliating people is funny? This is not a game, Lisa. You're making this a hostile environment for everyone, including me. Oh please, she scoffed, rolling her eyes. You're just being overly sensitive. I didn't mean anything by it. That's the problem, he said, his voice steady but firm. You don't see the impact of your words and actions. It's not just me, it's everyone who comes here looking for respect. The tension in the air thickened, and Marcus could see the uncertainty flickering in her eyes. The silence was palpable, a collective breath held as the other patrons and staff absorbed the confrontation. Do you think I don't care about the customers? She shot back, defensive. I'm just trying to lighten the mood. By belittling me? Marcus retorted. That's not humor, it's prejudice. You're feeding into the very stereotypes that we've worked hard to dismantle here. Lisa faltered, her bravado slipping. You don't know what it's like to work in this industry, she snapped, but there was a crack in her voice, a hint of vulnerability that betrayed her tough exterior. Maybe I do, Marcus said quietly, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. I've built this place from the ground up, facing my own battles every day. I won't let anyone treat it, or me, like we're less than we are. At that moment, something shifted in Lisa's expression. The defiance melted away, replaced by a flicker of realization. She looked around at the watching patrons and back at Marcus, who stood firm, resolute in his convictions. I'm just trying to fit in, she mumbled, a hint of remorse creeping into her voice. I thought I was being friendly. Marcus softened slightly, recognizing the struggle within her. I understand that. But fitting in shouldn't come at the cost of someone else's dignity. We can all do better, and I need you to be a part of that. The words hung in the air, a challenge and an invitation. The restaurant resumed its rhythm, but the tension remained, a thread connecting Marcus and Lisa in a moment of vulnerability and growth. I'll try, Lisa said finally, her voice small but genuine. I didn't realize how I was coming across. I'm sorry. Apologies are a start, Marcus replied, feeling a small victory in the moment. But it's actions that will truly matter. Let's work together to make this place welcoming for everyone. As he turned to walk away, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had confronted the conflict head-on, refusing to let prejudice taint his restaurant any longer. This was just the beginning. He would continue to foster an environment of respect, ensuring that every person who walked through the doors felt seen and valued. Marcus. Lisa called after him, a tentative edge to her voice. Thank you for saying something. I'll do better. He nodded, feeling a flicker of hope igniting within him. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could turn this moment into something transformative, not just for them, but for the entire community that Soulful Bites embraced. The aftermath of the confrontation lingered in the air, casting a new shadow over the restaurant. As the dinner rush unfolded, Marcus felt the weight of his words and the impact they had on both Lisa and the staff. The atmosphere was tense but charged with a strange sense of hope. Perhaps this was the turning point they needed. The kitchen buzzed with energy as plates clattered and orders flowed in. Marcus moved through the dining area, greeting patrons with his trademark warmth. He noticed a few regulars giving him supportive nods, their expressions encouraging. Yet, amidst the camaraderie, he couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that had settled within him. Hey, Marcus, called out one of the customers, a middle-aged woman with a friendly smile. Everything okay? We heard some raised voices earlier. Marcus forced a smile, willing himself to exude confidence. Just a little staff training. We're all about improving our service here at Soulful Bites. Glad to hear it. We love this place, she replied, her sincerity warming his heart. He appreciated their support but felt the heaviness of unspoken barriers still looming in the restaurant. As he continued to circulate, he caught sight of Lisa serving a table at the far end of the room. Her demeanor seemed different, more tentative, as if she was cautiously testing the waters. He watched as she interacted with the guests, trying to put on a smile, but it lacked the genuine warmth that the restaurant was known for. Instead, it came off as forced, a fragile facade that couldn't fully mask her lingering discomfort. "Hey, how's it going?" Marcus asked as he approached her. She paused, a flicker of surprise crossing her features. Fine," she said, avoiding his gaze as she wiped down the table. "Just trying to keep up with the orders." "Right," he replied, studying her for a moment. "I appreciate you being willing to work on things. It takes courage to admit when we need to change." "Yeah, well," Lisa sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "It's just hard, you know. I didn't mean to come off as, whatever it was. I thought I was just being funny." "Humor can be tricky," he acknowledged. "It's important to understand who it's coming from and how it might be received. Everyone has a different background, and not everyone finds the same things funny." She nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. "I guess I never really thought about it that way. I just wanted to fit in with the staff." "And you can," he said, keeping his tone encouraging. "But fitting in doesn't have to mean putting someone else down. We can lift each other up instead." As they spoke, the reality of their relationship began to shift. Marcus could see the flicker of understanding in Lisa's eyes, and it gave him hope. Perhaps this moment would lead to real change, not just in Lisa's behavior, but in the culture of the restaurant as a whole. "I'm sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable," Lisa said, her voice small. "I'll do better. I promise." "Let's work on this together," he replied, feeling the warmth of connection growing. "We're a team, after all." Just as he turned to walk away, a commotion erupted at the entrance of the restaurant. The door swung open violently, and a group of rowdy patrons entered, their laughter echoing through the dining area. Marcus immediately sensed the shift in energy. They were loud, boisterous, and unmistakably intoxicated. "Wow, what a joint," one of them shouted, his voice booming across the room. "Let's get some drinks." Marcus felt a familiar tension knot in his stomach. He watched as they swaggered to the bar, their disregard for the ambience palpable. As Lisa moved to take their orders, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this group would test the limits of the restaurant's culture. "Hey, pretty lady. What do you recommend?" one of the men called out to Lisa, leering at her as if she were a prize to be won. We have a great selection of craft beers," she replied, her discomfort evident. "And our specials are pretty popular tonight." The man chuckled, leaning over the bar with a smug grin. "You're cute. You should join us after your shift. We could have some fun." Marcus's heart sank as he witnessed the interaction unfold. Lisa's face flushed with embarrassment, and Marcus could see the unease creeping back into her expression. This was the moment when she would need to stand firm, but the weight of her earlier behavior loomed large, leaving her vulnerable to their advances. "Excuse me, can I help you?" Marcus interjected, stepping closer to the bar. The laughter from the group turned to surprise as they realized the owner was addressing them. "Yeah, buddy, we're just having some fun," one of the men slurred, clearly underestimating Marcus's authority. "No harm in that, right? There's a difference between having fun and disrespecting my staff," Marcus replied, keeping his tone calm but assertive. "Lisa is here to provide you with excellent service, not to be objectified." The man's smile faltered, and the atmosphere shifted as the group realized they had crossed a line. Murmurs of confusion and discomfort rippled through their ranks. "Relax, man. We were just joking around," another patron chimed in, attempting to diffuse the tension. "Jokes shouldn't come at someone else's expense," Marcus countered, feeling a surge of protectiveness. "This is a welcoming space for everyone, and that includes treating each other with respect." If you can't do that, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. The group shifted uncomfortably, their bravado wavering under Marcus's unwavering gaze. The moment hung in the air, charged with anticipation and uncertainty. Lisa stood nearby, her expression a mixture of admiration and disbelief. "Whatever, dude," one of the men scoffed, trying to regain control of the situation. "We'll take our business elsewhere." "Fine by me," Marcus replied, crossing his arms. "I hope you find somewhere that fits your idea of fun, but it won't be here." With that, the group turned and stormed out, their laughter fading into the night. The tension in the restaurant began to dissipate, replaced by a palpable relief among the remaining patrons. Marcus could feel the weight of his decision, knowing that standing up for respect and dignity had been the right choice. "Wow," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper as she approached Marcus. "That was impressive." He smiled, feeling a swell of pride. "Thank you. But it's not just about being impressive, it's about creating an environment where everyone feels safe and valued." "I see that now," she admitted, a flicker of determination in her eyes. "I want to be part of that too. I don't want to be the reason someone feels unwelcome here." Marcus nodded, a sense of camaraderie building between them. "We're in this together. Let's keep working on it." As they resumed their duties, the atmosphere in the restaurant felt lighter, infused with a newfound sense of purpose. Marcus knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was committed to fostering an environment where respect reigned supreme. With each challenge, they would grow stronger, united against the prejudice that sought to undermine their mission. The following weeks at Soulful Bites were marked by a palpable shift in the atmosphere. After the incident with the unruly patrons, Marcus noticed that his staff seemed more aware of their words and actions. Lisa, in particular, had taken it to heart, approaching her interactions with a newfound mindfulness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the restaurant, Marcus stood at the front, welcoming guests with a genuine smile. The familiar sounds of laughter and clinking silverware enveloped him like a comforting blanket. He felt a renewed sense of hope for what they could achieve together. "Marcus, can I talk to you for a second?" Lisa approached him during a lull in the evening rush, her tone serious yet hopeful. "Of course," he replied, motioning for her to step aside. "What's on your mind?" "I wanted to apologize for my behavior before," she said, her voice steady. "I realize now how my jokes could hurt people. I've been working on being more respectful and aware." "I appreciate you saying that," he replied, genuinely impressed. "Acknowledging our mistakes is a crucial step in growing as individuals and as a team." Lisa's eyes sparkled with determination. "I was thinking, maybe we could hold a team meeting to discuss how we can support each other better. I mean, really dig deep into our experiences and biases." "That's a great idea," Marcus said, a surge of excitement rushing through him. Creating an open dialogue could help everyone feel more comfortable and foster a stronger sense of unity. As they finalized the details, Marcus felt the thrill of possibility. This could be a turning point, not just for Lisa, but for the entire staff. A moment where they could learn from one another and reshape the restaurant culture into one of inclusivity and respect. Later that evening, after the dinner crowd had thinned, Marcus gathered the staff together. The dim lights overhead cast a warm glow, creating an intimate atmosphere. He noticed the mixed expressions on their faces: curiosity, apprehension, and eagerness. "Thank you all for being here," Marcus began, his voice steady. "I wanted to create this space for us to talk openly about our experiences and how we can improve as a team. This isn't about pointing fingers, it's about understanding and learning from each other." Lisa chimed in, her enthusiasm infectious. "I think it's important for us to share how we feel, especially regarding the dynamics we've encountered. If we're going to make Soulful Bites a welcoming environment, we need to be honest about our biases and how they can affect others." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. Marcus felt a wave of pride at Lisa's growth and the way she was stepping into a leadership role alongside him. I'll start, said David, a bartender with a laid-back demeanor. I've caught myself making jokes that I thought were harmless, but I realize now they might have crossed a line. I never intended to offend anyone. Thanks for sharing, David, Marcus said, encouragingly. It's brave to admit our missteps. This is a safe space for all of us. The discussion flowed naturally, with each staff member taking turns to share their thoughts and experiences. They spoke of moments of misunderstanding, of times when they had felt marginalized or uncomfortable. The stories ranged from subtle microaggressions to overt discrimination, each one deepening the collective understanding of their shared responsibilities. As the night wore on, Lisa shared her own story about growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood and how it had shaped her perceptions of race and identity. Her honesty struck a chord with the team, and the atmosphere transformed into one of empathy and connection. I always felt the need to fit in, even if it meant laughing at things I shouldn't have, she admitted, her voice wavering slightly. But I want to change that. I want to be part of the solution. The group nodded, and Marcus felt a surge of pride wash over him. They were not just co-workers, they were beginning to evolve into a supportive community, one that acknowledged its flaws and aimed for growth. As they wrapped up the meeting, a sense of camaraderie hung in the air. Thank you all for being so open and honest tonight, Marcus said, his heart swelling with gratitude. This is just the beginning, and I'm excited to see where it leads us. Afterward, as they began to clean up, Lisa approached Marcus again. I can't believe how much we all opened up, she said, her eyes bright. It felt good to share and be heard. It did, he agreed, smiling. These conversations can be uncomfortable, but they're necessary. You did great tonight, Lisa. Thanks, she replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. I really appreciate your support. I feel like we're building something special here. As the last customers filtered out and the restaurant quieted down, Marcus reflected on the evening's progress. They had laid the groundwork for a more inclusive and understanding environment, and he could feel the shift in energy among the staff. But even as the night ended on a hopeful note, he couldn't shake the feeling that external challenges loomed on the horizon. Change would not come without resistance, and Marcus knew that they would need to stand strong against the currents of prejudice that still flowed outside their walls. As the weeks rolled on, the atmosphere at Soulful Bites continued to transform. Staff meetings had become a staple, fostering an openness that allowed them to confront their biases and discuss the restaurant's environment. Yet, outside the comforting walls of their establishment, not all was harmonious. One Saturday evening, the restaurant buzzed with energy, packed with regulars and new customers eager to taste Marcus's famous Southern cuisine. The air was rich with the aroma of fried chicken and collard greens, punctuated by the sound of laughter and conversation. It was a perfect night, or so it seemed. Just as Marcus was placing an order in the kitchen, he caught sight of a group of patrons entering, their loud laughter cutting through the warm ambience like a knife. They were boisterous and clearly intoxicated, their energy electric yet charged with an undertone of arrogance. As they settled into a large booth, Marcus overheard snippets of their conversation. The group, a mix of men and women, seemed to be reveling in their own jokes, many of which landed uncomfortably in the atmosphere. Look at this place. What do you expect from a soul food joint? One of the men bellowed, his words dripping with condescension. Probably all those black folks serving food. Can't imagine it's good, another chimed in, his laughter sharp and cutting. Marcus felt a tight knot form in his stomach. The jokes and comments, laced with disdain, threatened to sour the evening. He exchanged a glance with Lisa, who had just walked by with a tray of drinks. Her expression mirrored his, concern mixed with determination. With his heart racing, Marcus approached their table. Good evening. Welcome to Soulful Bites. I hope you're ready for a great meal. Yeah, sure. Just hope it's not too spicy for our delicate palates, the first man shot back, his eyes glinting with amusement. Let me assure you, our food is as authentic as it gets, Marcus replied, keeping his tone steady. And it's made with love. The man smirked, leaning back in his chair, clearly unimpressed. Love? Is that what you call this? He gestured dismissively at the decor, a blend of vibrant colors and local art that celebrated black culture. Looks like a cheap knockoff of a real restaurant. Marcus felt the heat of anger rise in him, but he swallowed it down. This was his establishment, a place born from hard work and passion. He wouldn't allow one group of narrow-minded patrons to overshadow everything they had built. We take pride in our heritage, he said, his voice unwavering. Our food reflects our culture, and we aim to share that with everyone. Yeah. Save the lecture, the man sneered. Just bring us some drinks. We're here to have a good time, not listen to a lesson. As Marcus walked away, his heart pounded. He exchanged a glance with Lisa, who had been watching the interaction unfold. She approached him, her brow furrowed. Are you okay? I'll be fine, he replied, forcing a smile. Just a few disrespectful patrons. They think they can belittle what we do here. Lisa nodded, her expression fierce. We can't let them ruin our night. Let's focus on the customers who appreciate our hard work. But as the night wore on, the group's behavior grew increasingly obnoxious. They made jokes at the expense of the staff, especially Lisa, whose skin color and work ethic became the subjects of their ridicule. Each laugh felt like a slap in the face, a reminder of the prejudice Marcus had hoped to combat. Finally, during a quieter moment, Lisa approached Marcus in the kitchen, her hands shaking. I can't take this anymore, Marcus. They're crossing a line. I don't deserve to be treated like that, and neither does anyone else here. I know, he replied, feeling the weight of the moment settle over them. We have to address it, but I want to do it in a way that protects you and the rest of the staff. Let's confront them, Lisa urged, her voice steady. We can't allow this to go on. If we don't stand up for ourselves, we're letting them win. With a deep breath, Marcus nodded. Okay. Let's do this. As they made their way back to the dining area, Marcus felt the tension coiling in his chest. They approached the table, where the group was now loudly arguing over who would take the last piece of cornbread. Excuse me, Marcus began, his voice firm but calm. I need to address the way you've been speaking to my staff. The group turned to him, their laughter fading as confusion flickered across their faces. What are you talking about? The man who had mocked him earlier asked, feigning innocence. The jokes, the comments. They're disrespectful, and we won't tolerate that kind of behavior here, Marcus stated, his eyes locking onto the man's. Oh, come on. It's just a bit of fun, the man replied, but Marcus could see the challenge in his eyes. Not when it comes at the expense of others. This restaurant is a space for everyone, and I will not allow you to belittle my team, he asserted, his voice unwavering. Lisa stood beside him, her presence steadying him. We work hard to create a welcoming environment. If you can't respect that, perhaps this isn't the place for you. The group fell silent, the air thick with tension. For a moment, it felt as though time had frozen, their laughter replaced by the weight of Marcus's words. Then, with a scoff, the man waved them off. Whatever. We'll take our business elsewhere. This place is a joke anyway. As they gathered their things, Marcus felt a rush of relief mixed with lingering anger. They had stood up for themselves, but the hurtful words lingered in the air long after the patrons had left. Thank you, Lisa said softly, her voice shaking slightly. I don't know if I could have done that without you. You're stronger than you think, Marcus replied, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We all are. It's about time we start standing up for ourselves. As the night drew to a close, Marcus felt the weight of their encounter. They had taken a stand, but he knew that this was just the beginning. The battle against ignorance and prejudice would require more than just one confrontation. It would take resilience, strength, and unwavering support from each other to create the change they desired. The next few days after the confrontation were filled with an uneasy tension. Although the restaurant was still busy, Marcus could feel the lingering weight of the incident with the rude patrons hanging over soulful bites. The incident had sparked conversations among the staff, many of whom had begun to share their own experiences of prejudice and disrespect within the industry. One evening, during a particularly quiet moment between dinner rushes, Marcus called an impromptu meeting with the staff. They gathered in a corner of the dining area, the sunlight filtering through the large windows casting a warm glow on their faces. Marcus could see the apprehension in their eyes, but he also sensed a yearning for change. "I want to thank all of you for your hard work," Marcus began, his voice steady. "But I also want to acknowledge what happened last week. It wasn't just an isolated incident, it's a reflection of something bigger. We can't let that kind of disrespect define our restaurant or our experiences here." Lisa nodded in agreement, her expression fierce. "We all deserve to work in a space where we feel safe and respected. I know it can be hard to speak up, but we need to create an environment where everyone feels empowered to do so." Marcus glanced around the table, seeing a mix of expressions, some unsure, others emboldened. "I want to foster an environment where we can all share our stories and support one another. We're not just co-workers, we're a family. Let's not shy away from confronting the issues we face, both in the restaurant and outside of it." One of the newer waitresses, a young woman named Mia, spoke up hesitantly. "I had a similar experience at my last job. I felt like I had to just accept the way customers treated me. It's so hard to stand up for yourself when you're worried about losing your job." Marcus felt a pang of empathy for her. "I understand that fear, but we need to support each other. We're all in this together, and I want you to know that your voices matter. If we stick together, we can change the narrative, not just for ourselves but for future staff members." As the meeting continued, more stories flowed. The staff began to share their experiences of discrimination, subtle looks, demeaning comments, and even outright hostility from customers. Each story felt like a brick being removed from the wall of silence that had once confined them, allowing their collective strength to emerge. By the end of the meeting, a renewed sense of purpose filled the room. They discussed implementing a code of conduct for customers and the staff, emphasizing the values of respect and inclusivity. Marcus felt a surge of pride. They were becoming a cohesive unit, united against the common challenges they faced. Later that night, as the last customers filed out, Marcus found himself in the kitchen, reviewing the orders for the next day. He felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. The restaurant had been buzzing with laughter and positive energy all evening, and he could see that the staff was starting to bond more deeply. Just then, Lisa entered the kitchen, a playful smile on her face. "Hey, I heard we're planning a staff outing next week. Any ideas?" Marcus chuckled, leaning against the counter. "I was thinking a picnic in the park. We could bring some food, games, make it a fun day away from the restaurant." "Sounds perfect," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It'll give us a chance to relax and get to know each other outside of work." Marcus smiled, grateful for her positivity. "Exactly. We can create our own space where we feel safe to be ourselves." As they discussed the picnic, the door swung open, and a couple of regular customers entered, chatting and laughing. Marcus greeted them with a warm smile, but as they settled in, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had recently shadowed his thoughts. He wondered if their newfound unity would be enough to shield them from the ignorance that still lurked outside. Later that week, during a busy lunch rush, a familiar face walked through the door, one of the patrons from the confrontation. The man had returned, a smug grin plastered across his face as he scanned the room. Marcus felt a mixture of anger and apprehension bubble inside him. "Hey, look who it is," the man shouted, drawing the attention of his friends who followed him in. "The owner. Didn't expect to see you here. Still running this little hole in the wall." Marcus took a deep breath, focusing on maintaining his composure. "Welcome back. We appreciate your business," he replied, his voice calm yet firm. The man sauntered over to the bar, his loud demeanor cutting through the buzz of conversations. "What, no special welcome this time? Maybe I should start bringing my own food to this place. Might as well save a buck or two." Marcus could feel the heat rising in his cheeks as laughter erupted from the man's friends. But he refused to let it get to him. Instead, he summoned the courage he had found in recent days and addressed the group directly. "I hope you're ready to enjoy the meal we've prepared. We take pride in our food, and I assure you, it's made with care," he said, his tone even. The man smirked, leaning closer to Marcus. "Care? That's rich. Let's see if the food matches the hype. Maybe I should just stick to the cornbread. That seems to be your only claim to fame." Marcus clenched his fists but held his ground. "I encourage you to keep an open mind. Our menu offers much more than cornbread, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on our signature dishes." The man rolled his eyes but turned away, clearly not interested in engaging further. Marcus watched as he and his friends settled into a booth, their laughter echoing around the restaurant. "Don't let him get to you," Lisa said softly as she approached him. "You're doing great. Just focus on the customers who appreciate what we do here." Marcus took a deep breath, trying to shake off the negative energy that the man had brought back into the restaurant. "You're right. We can't let him spoil our atmosphere. We have so much to offer, and we're going to keep doing what we do best." As the night wore on, Marcus found solace in the genuine laughter of his other customers, the lively conversations, and the warmth of the restaurant he had built from the ground up. They were a family, each member playing a vital role in creating a space where everyone felt welcome. But in the back of his mind, the confrontation with the rude patron lingered. Marcus knew this battle against ignorance was far from over. With every insult hurled his way, he felt a growing determination to stand firm, not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever been made to feel less than because of their skin color. He was ready to continue fighting, not just for his restaurant, but for the principles that defined it: respect, dignity, and the undeniable power of community. The days following the rude patron's last visit were filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Although Marcus had embraced the support of his staff and the sense of unity they were building, the memory of the man's arrogance weighed heavily on him. Each time he heard the door chime, he braced himself, wondering if today would be the day the patron would return. On a bustling Friday evening, the restaurant was filled with familiar faces and the tantalizing aroma of fried chicken and collard greens wafted through the air. The staff moved efficiently between tables, laughter and conversation blending into a warm ambience. But as the night progressed, a familiar figure strode through the door, the same patron from before, flanked by a group of friends. "Look who's back," the man called out loudly, his voice slicing through the jovial atmosphere like a knife. The laughter quieted, and eyes shifted toward Marcus, who was stationed near the kitchen entrance. With a deep breath, Marcus steeled himself. He had anticipated this moment and resolved to maintain his composure, no matter the provocation. The man sauntered to the bar, plopping himself down with an exaggerated flair, his friends snickering as they followed suit. "Is the owner around? Or did he take the night off to avoid real customers?" The man's tone dripped with sarcasm, drawing snickers from his group. Marcus approached, forcing a smile. "I'm here. How can I assist you tonight?" His voice was steady, though a storm brewed beneath his calm facade. "I just want to see what all the fuss is about," the man said, leaning back and crossing his arms. "Is your food as mediocre as it was last time?" Marcus held his ground, keeping his expression neutral. "I assure you, our menu has something for everyone. What would you like to try?" As the patron ordered with mock disdain, Marcus couldn't help but notice the shift in the atmosphere around him. Other customers had turned their attention to the unfolding scene, whispering amongst themselves, their faces a mix of concern and curiosity. "You know," the patron continued, his voice rising, "I'm surprised you're even running this place. I thought the food scene around here was above average. Guess I was wrong." The laughter of his friends echoed through the restaurant, and Marcus felt the heat creeping up his neck. In that moment, he realized that the man wasn't just trying to undermine him, he was actively seeking to belittle the entire establishment and everything Marcus had built. "Listen," Marcus said, his voice firm but measured. "This restaurant is more than just a business to me. It represents hard work, community, and respect for everyone who walks through our doors. I would appreciate it if you could keep your comments respectful." The patron smirked, clearly enjoying the confrontation. "Respectful? Come on, lighten up. We're just having a good time." But the laughter from his group began to fade as some patrons shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A couple of them exchanged looks, sensing the tension growing. "Do you really think this is just a joke?" Marcus pressed, his heart racing. "There are real people behind the food you eat, and real stories behind this restaurant. If you can't respect that, then perhaps you should reconsider where you choose to dine." The room fell silent, all eyes on Marcus and the patron. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, and for a moment, it seemed the patron might retreat, perhaps recognizing the shift in his audience's support. "Yeah, whatever," he finally replied, shrugging dismissively. "Just give me a drink. I'm here to enjoy myself, not listen to some sob story." As Marcus turned away to grab the patron's order, he could feel the eyes of the room on him. He took a moment to compose himself, channeling the energy of his supportive staff and the patrons who believed in what he was trying to create. When he returned with the drinks, he noticed several tables had quieted down, their conversations stilled. It was clear they were watching the encounter unfold, some with sympathetic expressions. Marcus felt a surge of determination rise within him. He wouldn't let this man diminish the spirit of his restaurant. "Here you go," he said, placing the drinks on the bar with care. "I hope you enjoy them." The patron took a long sip, his expression suddenly shifting. "Not bad. But let's see if the food can keep up with the drinks." Marcus turned to walk away but felt a hand grab his wrist. He turned back, meeting the patron's challenging gaze. "What are you gonna do if I keep making comments like this?" the man taunted, leaning in closer. "You gonna kick me out? Or are you too scared of losing a customer?" In that moment, the heat of the confrontation ignited a fire within Marcus. He straightened, meeting the patron's glare with unwavering resolve. "I won't tolerate disrespect, not from anyone. You can choose to enjoy your meal here, or you can leave. It's entirely up to you." The patron laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the restaurant. But Marcus noticed a shift. Several patrons began to nod in agreement, the collective support emboldening him. "Let's see how many of your loyal customers stick around if you kick me out," the patron sneered, his bravado faltering under the weight of the collective gaze. At that moment, Lisa stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. "You don't need to be treated like that, Marcus. We stand with you." The atmosphere shifted again, and patrons began to murmur in support, a chorus of voices rising in solidarity. "Yeah, that's right," one diner called out. "We respect this place and the hard work that goes into it." The patron's face flushed as he scanned the room, realizing he was losing the support of those around him. His bravado started to crumble, and in a last-ditch effort to regain control, he leaned back in his seat and sneered, "You all must be desperate if you're siding with a loser like him." But the tide had turned. The support from the other patrons poured in like a wave, drowning out the patrons' insults. They began to share their own experiences of being marginalized or dismissed, highlighting the importance of respect and community in a space that should feel safe for all. Marcus watched, filled with a mix of pride and disbelief. This was not just his battle anymore, it was a collective stand against the prejudice that had long tainted their community. In that moment, he felt a profound sense of belonging, not just within the walls of Soulful Bites, but among those who shared his vision for a better world. The patron, sensing the loss of control, finally stood up, his face twisted in anger. "You all are pathetic," he spat, glaring at Marcus. "Enjoy your little love fest." As he stormed out, the door slammed behind him, and a collective sigh of relief washed over the restaurant. The air felt lighter, the tension dissipating as laughter and conversation resumed. Marcus looked around at the smiling faces, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, everyone," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This place is about unity, respect, and love. I'm proud to have you all here with me." As the night continued, the energy shifted from tension to celebration. The staff exchanged knowing smiles, realizing that they had weathered the storm together. They had turned a moment of hostility into an opportunity for growth, not just as a restaurant, but as a community. That night, as Marcus cleaned up and reflected on the events, he realized that their fight for respect and dignity was far from over. But with each confrontation and each show of support, he felt a growing conviction that they would continue to stand together, united against the prejudice that sought to divide them. The events of the previous night replayed in Marcus's mind like a film on repeat. As he closed up the restaurant, the sounds of laughter and camaraderie still echoed in his ears, a stark contrast to the bitter confrontation that had taken place just hours before. He leaned against the counter, allowing the warmth of the moment to wash over him, but beneath that warmth, a chill of reality settled in. Marcus glanced around the restaurant, taking in the vibrant decor, the family photos lining the walls, and the memories etched into every corner. Each table held a story, a shared meal, a connection forged over time. Yet, the shadow of prejudice loomed ever closer, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. As he locked up for the night, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility pressed down on his shoulders. He was not just the owner, he was a symbol of hope for many in his community. People looked to him for inspiration, for leadership in the fight against racism and inequality. But what if he failed? What if he couldn't protect his dream? Driving home, the streetlights flickered like distant stars against the backdrop of the darkened sky. His thoughts drifted to the patrons' derisive laughter, the way it had cut through the warmth of the restaurant like a cold knife. Marcus shook his head, trying to dispel the negativity. He couldn't let one person's disdain define him or his establishment. When he arrived home, Marcus sat on the couch, the weight of the world pressing against his chest. He reached for his phone, scrolling through the messages of support he had received from friends and regular customers. They had rallied behind him, expressing their solidarity and appreciation for the community he had built. But the comments of the rude patron gnawed at him, pulling him into a deeper introspection. He picked up a pen and began jotting down his thoughts. "What does it mean to be a leader in a world filled with prejudice?" he wrote. "How can I ensure my restaurant remains a safe haven for everyone? How do I balance the need for respect with the desire to run a successful business?" As he wrote, he felt a flicker of resolve igniting within him. He couldn't allow fear to dictate his actions, he had to confront these issues head-on, not just for himself but for the community that depended on him. The next morning, as the sun rose, Marcus decided to hold a staff meeting before the restaurant opened. He wanted to create a safe space for his team to voice their concerns, to share their experiences of discrimination, and to discuss how they could collectively tackle these challenges. He knew they had to be united in their mission. Gathering in the cozy staff room, he faced his team, their faces a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," he began, his voice steady. "I wanted to talk about what happened the other night. It's important that we address the issue of respect in our restaurant." The staff exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement. Lisa stepped forward, her expression serious. "I think we need to talk about how we can support each other better, especially in moments like that. It's not just about one person's behavior, it's about how we can stand up together against discrimination." "Exactly," Marcus said, his heart swelling with pride at their willingness to engage in this difficult conversation. "This restaurant is a reflection of our values. We need to ensure it's a space where everyone feels welcome and respected, regardless of their background." One of the newer staff members, Jordan, spoke up hesitantly. "But what if someone else comes in and acts like that guy? How do we handle it without escalating the situation?" Marcus took a moment to consider Jordan's question. It's a valid concern. We can't control how others behave, but we can control how we respond. I want each of you to feel empowered to stand up for what's right, to communicate with each other and find support in those moments. As the discussion continued, the team shared their own experiences, some recounting times when they had been treated unfairly or witnessed prejudice against others. The atmosphere shifted from apprehension to solidarity, each voice adding to the collective strength of the group. We could also create a code of conduct for our restaurant, Lisa suggested. Something that clearly outlines what's acceptable and what's not. If everyone knows the expectations, it could help us maintain a respectful environment. I love that idea, Marcus replied, feeling a surge of optimism. Let's draft something together. It can be a commitment to our values as a team and as a restaurant. I want us to be proactive in creating a culture of respect. As they continued to brainstorm ideas, a sense of purpose began to fill the room. They discussed ways to engage with the community, perhaps hosting events that celebrated diversity or inviting local leaders to speak on issues of race and equality. As the meeting wrapped up, Marcus felt a renewed sense of hope. His team had embraced the challenge, ready to fight against discrimination in their own way. Together, they could create a ripple effect that would extend far beyond the walls of Soulful Bites. That evening, as the restaurant filled with familiar faces, Marcus watched his staff interact with customers, their energy infectious. They had taken the discussions to heart, exuding a newfound confidence in their roles. As he moved through the restaurant, he paused to listen to the conversations around him. Laughter erupted from one table while another engaged in a heartfelt discussion about their experiences. The atmosphere was alive with connection, and Marcus felt a profound sense of pride in what they were building together. As the night wore on, he found himself at the bar, pouring drinks for a group of patrons who had become regulars. Their laughter filled the air, and he felt a sense of belonging that reminded him why he had opened this restaurant in the first place. But the shadow of that rude patron still lingered in his mind. He knew that this was only the beginning of a larger fight against the prejudices that existed in their community. Marcus was determined to keep pushing forward, not just for himself, but for everyone who walked through the doors of Soulful Bites. That night, as he closed up once more, he took a moment to reflect. The road ahead would be challenging, but with the support of his team and the community behind him, he felt ready to face whatever came next. This was not just about food, it was about changing perceptions, building a legacy, and fostering a place where everyone felt valued and respected. The morning sun filtered through the restaurant windows, casting a warm glow over the tables that had been meticulously set for another bustling day at Soulful Bites. Marcus stood in the kitchen, the comforting sounds of pots and pans clanging in harmony with the sizzling grills, but his mind was elsewhere. Today marked 1 week since the confrontation with Jessica, and the tension that had lingered since that fateful night felt almost palpable. As the doors swung open, regular customers began to trickle in, their familiar smiles a source of comfort to Marcus. He greeted them warmly, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Jessica. He knew they needed to address the situation head-on, yet he dreaded the conversation. Lisa entered the kitchen, her brow furrowed with concern. "Marcus, can we talk? I think we need to address Jessica before this escalates any further." "Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing," he replied, running a hand through his hair. "She needs to understand the impact of her actions, but I'm worried about how she'll react. Maybe we should have a meeting with her and the team. Lay everything out on the table. It's important for everyone to feel safe here," Lisa suggested, her determination evident in her voice. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of his responsibility as both a leader and a friend. "You're right. Let's do it after the lunch rush. It's time to tackle this head-on." As the day progressed, the restaurant buzzed with energy, but beneath the surface, a current of unease flowed. The staff moved about with an air of tension, whispering among themselves, casting furtive glances toward Jessica, who seemed oblivious to the storm brewing around her. After lunch, Marcus gathered everyone in the staff room, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. Jessica entered last, her demeanor casual, as if nothing had happened. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach as he prepared to address the elephant in the room. "Thank you all for coming," he started, glancing around at his team. "I know things have been tense lately, and we need to have a serious discussion about what happened last week. Jessica, I think it's important for us to hear your perspective." Jessica crossed her arms, a defensive posture that only intensified the tension in the room. "Look, I didn't mean to upset anyone. It was just a misunderstanding. I thought he was acting suspiciously." "Jessica," Lisa interjected, her voice steady but firm. "It wasn't just about a misunderstanding. It was how you treated Marcus and the assumptions you made based on his race. That's the problem." Marcus felt his heart race as he listened to Lisa. This was it, the moment of truth. "I want to make it clear that our restaurant stands for respect and inclusivity," he said, his voice unwavering. "What you said and did that night was not only hurtful, it goes against everything we're trying to build here." Jessica's expression hardened. "So, you're saying it's my fault? I was just doing my job. Maybe if he hadn't been so defensive, it wouldn't have escalated." "Defensive?" Marcus's voice rose slightly, fueled by the anger that had been simmering within him. "I wasn't defensive, I was hurt. Your comments reflect a deep-seated bias, and it's not just about that night. It's about how we as a society often treat people based on the color of their skin." There was a tense silence as everyone absorbed Marcus's words. Jessica's cheeks flushed with anger, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "I didn't mean it like that," she replied, her voice wavering. "Whether you meant it or not, the impact was real," Lisa continued, her compassion shining through. "We're a team, and we need to support one another. That includes recognizing our biases and working to change them." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "I want us to have open and honest discussions about these issues. We can't shy away from difficult conversations, especially when they affect our customers and our team. We all need to learn from this." Slowly, the atmosphere began to shift. Other staff members chimed in, sharing their own experiences of discrimination, how they had felt marginalized or judged. Each story added a layer of understanding, revealing the collective pain that echoed throughout the group. "I didn't realize how my comments might have affected someone else," Jessica admitted, her voice trembling. "I guess I've always thought of myself as open-minded, but I see now that I have more to learn." Marcus felt a glimmer of hope. Acknowledging our shortcomings is the first step towards growth. We all have biases, whether we recognize them or not. It's how we respond to them that matters. With newfound empathy in the room, the team brainstormed ideas for fostering a more inclusive environment, discussing ways to educate themselves on racial issues and create events that promoted understanding within the community. It was a step in the right direction, a commitment to change that Marcus felt proud to be a part of. As the meeting concluded, Jessica approached Marcus, her expression softening. "I'm sorry for how I treated you. I didn't understand the impact of my actions until now. I want to do better." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "Thank you for saying that, Jessica. We're all here to learn and grow. It's going to take time, but I believe we can create a culture that fosters respect and understanding." The rest of the shift passed with a renewed sense of purpose. Laughter echoed through the restaurant as the staff worked together, each person more aware of their role in creating a welcoming space for everyone. That night, as Marcus closed up, he reflected on the day's events. He had faced a moment of reckoning, and while it had been uncomfortable, it was also necessary. He knew the fight against racism was far from over, but they had taken a significant step forward together. As he locked the doors of Soulful Bites, he felt a sense of hope. The journey would be long, but with unity and determination, they could create a space where everyone felt valued and respected, a legacy worth fighting for. The weeks that followed the confrontation were a whirlwind of change at Soulful Bites. Marcus watched as the staff began to embrace the difficult conversations that had once felt too heavy to bear. The initial awkwardness faded, replaced by a growing sense of camaraderie and purpose. One afternoon, while preparing for the dinner rush, Lisa approached Marcus with an idea that had been brewing in her mind. "Marcus, I think we should host a community event, something focused on diversity and inclusion. We could invite local speakers to share their experiences and perspectives, along with some good food. What do you think?" Marcus smiled, feeling a spark of excitement. "I love it. This could be a fantastic way to engage our community and show that we're committed to making a difference." As they brainstormed ideas, the restaurant buzzed with energy, the kitchen filled with laughter and collaboration. The atmosphere was electric, a testament to the positive shift that had taken place since that pivotal meeting. Jessica, now a willing participant in the process, took it upon herself to help organize the event, eager to prove her commitment to change. The day of the event arrived, and the restaurant was adorned with colorful banners and tables overflowing with dishes representing various cultures. Marcus stood at the front, addressing the crowd that had gathered, his heart swelling with pride. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at Soulful Bites. This is a celebration of our community and an opportunity for all of us to learn from one another. We've come together to share stories, to listen, and to grow. Let's embrace our differences and create a culture of understanding and respect." The room erupted with applause, and Marcus felt a warmth spread through him. The speakers took turns sharing their stories of struggle, resilience, and hope. Each narrative resonated deeply, drawing the audience in and prompting discussions that flowed like the delicious aromas wafting from the kitchen. As the event progressed, Jessica approached Marcus, her eyes shining with determination. "I never realized how much I needed this. Listening to everyone's stories has opened my eyes. I want to continue being part of this change, not just at work but in my life." Marcus beamed at her sincerity. "That's the spirit, Jessica. We all have a part to play in this. It's about making a commitment to ourselves and each other." The evening culminated in a vibrant celebration of culture, with music and dancing that brought everyone together. Laughter echoed through the restaurant as staff and patrons mingled, breaking down barriers and forming connections. For the first time in a long while, Marcus felt a sense of unity that transcended the struggles they had faced. As the event came to a close, the restaurant was filled with a sense of hope and possibility. Marcus stood at the door, watching the last guests leave, their faces illuminated by the joy of shared experiences. He turned to Lisa, who was cleaning up nearby, her face flushed with excitement. "I can't believe how well this went," she said, her smile infectious. "We really made a difference today." "We did," Marcus replied, feeling a surge of gratitude. "And this is just the beginning. We need to keep this momentum going." The next day, Marcus found himself reflecting on the profound journey they had undertaken together. The challenges had been daunting, but the willingness of everyone to confront their biases and learn from one another had paved the way for a brighter future. That evening, as Marcus locked up the restaurant, he glanced back at the glowing sign of Soulful Bites. It wasn't just a restaurant, it was a space for dialogue, a haven for understanding, and a community united against prejudice. In the weeks that followed, the restaurant flourished not only in business but in purpose. Patrons returned, drawn not only by the delectable food but by the vibrant atmosphere that embraced everyone. Marcus's heart swelled with pride as he watched his team thrive, their relationships deepening and their commitment to inclusivity growing stronger. One rainy afternoon, while sorting through emails, Marcus stumbled upon a message from a local organization dedicated to promoting diversity in business. They had heard about the event at Soulful Bites and wanted to collaborate on future initiatives. Excitement coursed through him as he realized the impact they were beginning to have. He responded eagerly, inviting them to meet and discuss ideas for future community events. Marcus envisioned workshops, open forums, and cultural celebrations that would further cultivate understanding and empathy within the community. The possibilities felt endless. As he reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment, Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude for the lessons learned. The incident with Jessica had sparked a transformation that reverberated throughout the restaurant and the community beyond. It had challenged everyone to confront their biases, to listen, and to grow. And as he prepared to open the doors the next day, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Soulful Bites was more than just a restaurant, it was a catalyst for change, a place where stories intertwined, and a beacon of hope for those seeking connection in a world often divided. With each passing day, he embraced the opportunity to inspire others, to foster understanding, and to create a legacy of inclusivity that would resonate for generations to come. In that moment, he knew that together, they could continue to build a community rooted in respect, love, and acceptance. And that, above all else, was the soul of Soulful Bites.